This story begins not with an empire, but with a kidnapped woman. Börte, Temujin's wife, is in Merkit hands. To save her, he must ask for help from two men destined to change his entire life, Teoril and Jamukha. But that war unleashes something far greater. The tribes of the steppe take sides. 30,000 men must face 30,000 more. The future of Genghis Khan loses, flees, and risks disappearing. Yet only a few years later, he will completely unify Mongolia. How does a defeated man become Genghis Khan? Börte is held captive by the Merkit. The raid that took her was carried out by 3 Merkit groups, about 300 men in all. They were not the entire Merkit people, but they were a force large enough to overwhelm Temujin's isolated camp. Above all, it was not a random attack. Those men carried a vengeance older than Temujin himself. Years later, Yasuge had taken Holen from a Merkit man. Temujin does not have enough men to respond alone. His following is still small, fragile, and unable to face the Merkit in open battle. So he does the only thing he can. He changes the scale of the conflict. He first turns to Teoril, also known as Togrul, the powerful Kerait chief and old ally of his father, Yasuge. Then he brings in Jamukha, his Anda, his sworn brother. Jamukha is not yet his rival. At this moment, he is the man to call when blood ties are no longer enough. The allies command enormous numbers. Tradition speaks of 20,000 men for Teoril and another 20,000 for Jamukha. Only part of those forces actually joins the expedition. The coalition strikes the Merkit camp and the followers of Toktoa Beki, their chief. The political meaning is already clear. Temujin moves from a small personal following to a coalition capable of moving many thousands of warriors across the steppe. The allies gather near the sources of the Onon. Jamukha arrives first and reproaches the others for their delay. Then the coalition crosses the Kilko, advances toward the Buura steppe, and strikes the Merkit camp at night. The Merkit flee toward the Selenge. In the chaos, Temujin calls out Börte's name. Börte recognizes her husband's voice. She leaves the cart and runs toward him. There, in the darkness, they are reunited. For Temujin, it is a personal victory, but also a political one. He is not yet the leader of the steppe, but he has shown that he can turn a private wound into a military coalition. After Börte is rescued, Temujin and Jamukha seem more united than ever. Jamukha is his Anda, his sworn brother, not merely a friend, but a man chosen before men and heaven itself, with solemn promises of mutual support, loyalty, and shared protection. The two had made that pact in their youth. Now they renew it with gifts, horses, and promises. Their camps remain close for more than a year, and for a moment, it seems the steppe might find two leaders able to walk side by side. But Jamukha belongs to an older, more aristocratic world. For him, power must remain in the hands of the steppe's noble lineages. Temujin, by contrast, begins attracting very different men. Warriors without noble birth, families seeking protection, and followers who see in him a real chance to rise. The fracture comes during a camp movement. Jamukha speaks ambiguous words. He talks about where the horse herders should stop and where the sheep herders should stop. It sounds like a simple travel instruction, but on the steppe, deciding who camps where means deciding rank and hierarchy. Temujin does not see the danger. Börte does. Börte grew up among the Angirat, a people used to building alliances through marriage. She had probably learned from childhood to read political signals others ignored. The woman rescued from the Merkit now becomes a counselor. She understands that Jamukha is marking a distance. So Temujin does not stop. At night, he separates his camp from his andas. The break does not begin with weapons. It begins with ambiguous words and a decision made in darkness. From that moment, small groups begin moving to Temujin's side. Armies do not arrive. Families, tents, horses, and herds arrive. Separation creates a rivalry, and when it explodes, Temujin will not win. He will lose.
Did you know that most people who watch our documentaries aren't subscribed yet? If you enjoy animated maps and history, join our community. Leave a like and subscribe so you never miss the next episodes.
After the separation, some supporters recognize Temujin as Khan. But this is not yet 1206, nor the definitive proclamation that will make him Genghis Khan. It is fragile, local, and contested leadership. For Jamukha, that is enough. His old anda sees a rival emerging, one capable of attracting men from outside the steppe's traditional aristocracy. The rivalry turns into open war. The battle is remembered as Dalan Baljut, probably in the second half of the 1180s. The exact location and date are debated, but the meaning is clear. It is the first major clash between the two sworn brothers. Jamukha gathers an enormous coalition for that stage of Mongol history. About 30,000 men drawn from 13 tribes. Temujin answers with a similar force from his 13 camps. The numbers must be treated cautiously, but the message is clear. Dalan Baljut is no longer a raid nor a family feud. It is a war between two poles of the steppe, and Temujin loses. The first great war against Jamukha does not elevate Temujin. It humiliates him. The future Genghis Khan is forced to flee, where his rival holds the field. But Jamukha turns victory into a political mistake. Tradition says he has dozens of prisoners boiled alive in 70 cauldrons. Then he has an enemy chief's head dragged behind his horse. It is not only cruelty, it is a theater of terror. Jamukha wants to show what happens to anyone who challenges him. On the steppe, however, terror can turn against those who use it. Some begin to wonder whether Jamukha is truly a protector or the next danger. He wins the field, but Temujin begins winning those who are looking for a leader to follow, not merely one to fear. After his defeat by Jamukha, Temujin does not disappear. For several years, his path remains obscure. But when he reemerges, he finds a nomadic world still divided, and that division becomes his opportunity. To the south, beyond the Gobi, the Jin dynasty dominates northern China. It is a world of cities, walls, taxes, and bureaucracies. But on the frontier, the Jin play a different game. They exploit nomadic rivalries to prevent the steppe from uniting under one leader. Temujin enters this game by striking the Tatars, old enemies of his family. For the Jin, it is a frontier campaign. For Temujin, it is vengeance. Attacking them means avenging Yasuge and returning as a useful leader in northern politics. At his side is To'oril, the powerful chief of the Kerait. According to tradition, when he receives Temujin's message, To'oril gathers his men in 3 days. The two also wait for the Jurchen, but after 6 days of delay, they decide not to lose any more time and advance without them. Along the Ulja, the Tatars try to defend themselves behind a barricade, but Temujin and To'oril overwhelm them. The Tatar chief Megujin Seultu is captured and killed. After the victory, To'oril receives the title of Ong Khan, while Temujin obtains a lesser but precious title. He is not yet sovereign of the steppe, but he is no longer a chief on the run. Around 1201, his adversaries react. At least 11 groups and faction gather around Jamukha. Tatars, Naiman, Merkit, Oirat, Taichiud, and other chiefs hostile to Temujin's rise. At Alki Bulkak, they sacrifice a stallion and a mare to swear common loyalty. Then they proclaim Jamukha Gur Khan, the Khan of all. The former sworn brother becomes the alternative claimant to rule Mongolia. Temujin receives the news of the imminent attack and calls to To'oril for help. The two move along the Kirulan, sending scouts and vanguards ahead. Tradition speaks of 3 observation posts before contact with the enemy. When the forward scouts return at speed, the message is clear. Jamukha's vanguard is approaching. At the front of Jamukha's coalition stand 4 main chiefs: 1 Taichiud, 1 Naiman, 1 Merkit, and 1 Oirat. It is almost a living map of Temujin's enemies. At Khoitan, the armies are about to clash when the weather turns. According to tradition, some of Jamukha's allies try to summon a storm using a magical stone called the Jada. Whatever the truth, wind, rain, and cold do descend on the battlefield, but they hit Jamukha's coalition hardest. The horsemen struggle to move, the groups scatter, and the order breaks down. For many, it is a sign. Heaven favors Temujin. The coalition breaks in 4 directions: the Naiman toward the Altai, the Merkit toward the Selenge, the Oirat into the forests, and the Taichiud toward the Onan. Temujin, however, keeps pursuing relentlessly. During the pursuit of the Taichiud, Jebi emerges. Tradition says he is the man who struck Temujin's horse with an arrow. Another chief would have had him killed. Temujin spares him, names him Jibi, Arrow, and takes him into service. An enemy becomes an asset. One day, he will become one of the greatest Mongol generals of all time. Temujin's success also frightens those who had once protected him. For years, To'oril, chief of the Kerait, had been an almost fatherly ally. But now Temujin is no longer the boy asking for help. He attracts men, wins battles, absorbs enemies, and grows too quickly. The fracture comes over a marriage proposal. Temujin tries to bind his family to To'oril's, turning alliance into kinship. Sengum, To'oril's son, sees the project as a threat. Jamukha feeds the growing suspicions. The old protector now becomes an enemy. In 1203, Temujin comes close to collapse. he is drawn toward a meeting, then warned of danger and forced to flee. Soon after, at the sands of Kalakaljit, he suffers a heavy defeat against the Kerait. Some reconstructions say he's left with only a few thousand warriors, perhaps 2,600, perhaps 4,600. The exact number is controversial, but the scene is clear. Temujin is once again very close to ruin. He withdraws toward Baljuna, a place that is difficult to identify. There, his followers survive dire conditions. What matters is who remains when everything seems lost. Those men are remembered as the companions of Baljuna, loyal not because Temujin has won, but because they chose to follow him when he seems defeated. Then, the situation turns around. In the autumn of 1203, Temujin strikes back against the Kerait, probably in the area of the Jajair Heights. He can count on tens of thousands of men, while the Kerait bloc is weaker and divided. The battle lasts 3 days. This time, the Kerait collapse. To'oril flees, but is killed by a Naaman sentry who does not recognize him. Sengum escapes westward. Temujin absorbs men, families, tents, and resources. Every victory expands his people. One last rival power remains: the Naaman, to the west, toward the Altai. In 1204, Temujin faces them with about 60,000 men. The Naaman forces are equal to or stronger than his own, so Temujin uses fires, reserve horses, and stratagems to make his army seem even larger. The victory is decisive. After the fall of the Naaman, the Merkit are scattered and Jamukha loses his base of power. Jamukha's end closes the circle. According to tradition, the old Anda is betrayed by his own men and handed over to the Temujin. Temujin has the traitors executed. Whoever sells his own chief today can sell another tomorrow. Then he grants Jamukha a nobleman's death, without the shedding of blood, often interpreted as having his back broken. The rival can be respected. The traitor cannot. In 1206, on the banks of the Onon, Temujin is proclaimed Genghis Khan. That same river that witnessed hunger, abandonment, and flight now sees the chiefs of the steppe recognize him as sovereign. Temujin has won the war of the tribes. But winning is not enough. He must transform rival clans, independent warriors, and defeated peoples into a war machine capable of striking beyond the Gobi. Temujin has become Genghis Khan, but his greatest undertaking has yet to begin. To continue this journey through history, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications for the next episode.